So, good afternoon and welcome. I'm your host, Dr. Vijala Kennedy, the Director of International Partnerships of Kumaraguru Institutions and the Principal of Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Science. We are very happy to host this 6-day webinar series on study in USA, which started yesterday and it goes on till June 2nd. My very warm welcome to the speaker and the moderator for today's session and to all the participants from Kumaraguru institutions, the faculty members, the career guidance experts, the Future Center members, and others who have joined us and parents who have joined us to understand the new dimensions of studying in USA. And my today the session is focusing on how do I choose a particular university. Yesterday we had a broad understanding of what is graduate education in the US. Today our focus is very specific. When we have thousands of universities in the US, how do I choose a particular university is the topic. Now, the topic is of significance for any student, one who aspires to go overseas, because even though we may be talking about US, generally these are some of the things that we may have to look at when we are looking at the universities, the choice of universities. And also, whichever year you are studying in, it's important because we don't think about the higher education in the final year, but we need to start thinking about it even in the first or second year so that we work towards it. That's why this particular topic is important. And from our International Office of Kumaraguru Institutions, we do focus on this kind of an exposure and this kind of giving them an understanding to take their career or their higher education forward. So for this session on choosing the right university, our speaker is Melissa Tixeira, who is here with us today, who is a recruitment advisor of international programs, Colorado State University, Fort Collins. And to moderate the session, we have Aparna Chandrashekaran, who's an advisor, EducationUSA and EducationUSA, USIEF. This series is a very significant series because we are actually hearing it from the right people, from the horse's mouth. The US consulate with their education wing of USIEF gives the very right kind of information, very unbiased view of how we should look at higher education in the USA. That's why attending this session will give us a broad perspective to take the right decisions. So with those thoughts, let me welcome all the participants who have joined us, all the faculty who have joined us, and we really hope that we will have a 1 hour of discussions and we will have a perspective of how we need to look at our graduate education. So the format will be, I will very shortly hand it over to Aparna to give an overview from a USIEF context, Education USA context. And then Melissa will be talking to us for 25 minutes to 30 minutes on how do we choose the university. She'll take us through the process, and followed by we will have the question and answer. Even when the discussions are going on, even when the presentation is going on, if you do have a question, please do post it in the Q&A so that we can take up the questions for discussion. The more the questions we have, the more the answers we will get for a larger audience. So with those thoughts, I welcome both Melissa and Aparna, and I will hand it over to Aparna for the session. Thank you.
Aparna, you're on mute.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kennedy. And on behalf of Education USA at the US India Educational Foundation office at the American Consulate here in Chennai, I'd like to thank the Kumaraguru group of institutions and you in particular for spearheading this webinar series on US higher education for your students. I'd like to now start my presentation. Right. So as Dr. Kennedy mentioned, I'm the Education USA advisor with the US India Educational Foundation, and my name is Aparna Chandrashekaran. So for some of you who are not familiar with what Education USA is all about, I'd just like to give you a small introduction. Education USA is the official source of information on US higher education. We are a US Department of State supported network, and we come under the Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs of the US government. Our mandate is to provide accurate, current, and comprehensive information about US higher education. And we are a global network of about 430 plus advising centers in over 170 countries. Just to share some statistics with all of you who may not know as to how many Indian students are already studying in the US. Number of international students from around the world are as many as 10 lakh plus in the US. And out of this number, 2 lakh plus are from India alone. China is the country which sends the maximum number of students to the US at 3 lakh plus, and it is followed by India at 2 lakh plus Indian students. Hopefully, some of you who are listening to this webinar today will be joining these Indian students in the years to come. Just to mention, in India, there are 7 Education USA centers. These are located in the cities of Ahmedabad, Bengaluru, Chennai, Delhi, Hyderabad, Kolkata, and Mumbai. And if you wish to connect with our centers to get updated information about our events, virtual events, or maybe future in-person events, as well as scholarship alerts and so on, we request you to sign up to this form link which is provided here, the SurveyMonkey form link that is provided. That way you get included into our student database and you will receive regular updates from our office. I would also urge all of you students to look up our official website, which is educationusa.state.gov, where we have explained the 5 steps to US study in great detail and have provided a lot of links that will be of relevance to you. I'm sure Melissa is going to talk about the number of steps that you have to go through to receive admission to a US university. But all I would like to reiterate from this image that you see on screen is that the process must begin early. If you are looking to apply to a US university, let's say, and if you wish to join a US university, let's say in this fall semester of next year, which is 2021 September, then you must start your preparatory process right away. In May of 2020 is when you will really need to start. So I would urge all of you to look at our Education USA website to understand what are these 5 basic steps that you need to follow to apply to US universities. Just as additional information, I'd like to point out that, given the COVID situation right now, and also the fact that our consulate here in Chennai is closed to visitors, Education USA India is, doing a lot of virtual events. And you can look up our calendar. The link is provided over here on your screen. You may look that up and you will get detailed information about all the upcoming virtual events that we are hosting for students in India. Quickly, just to let you know, these are the contact details for all our 7 Education USA centers. We also have a toll-free helpline. The number is given at the bottom right of the screen, which is 1-800-103-1231. This is the toll-free helpline number, which is available for students to call anywhere from Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So you don't have to pay for this. You can just call and speak to an Education USA advisor to get clarity about any doubts that you have about studying in the US. Now, a quick update on the upcoming sessions in this webinar series. Tomorrow, we'll be doing the application timeline and funding. On Friday, we'll be doing a session on how to write the statement of purpose. And Monday next week, we'll be doing the overview of the graduate application package. So we look forward to meeting all of you for these 3 sessions as well. Right? With that, I'm at the end of my introduction, and I now invite Melissa Tixeira of Colorado State University to begin her presentation. Thank you so much, Melissa, for taking time out of your very busy schedule to do this webinar for students of the Kumaraguru group of institutions. I'm sure they will benefit greatly from the insights and knowledge that you are about to share in this presentation. Thank you again, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Aparna. Hello, hi everybody. My name is Melissa, and I am the recruitment advisor for Colorado State University. I really want to take a quick opportunity to actually thank all of you for joining with your busy schedules. And I know everybody's on Zoom these days, and there's a lot of screen fatigue and everything. So I'm very, very thankful that you have joined me here. And let's not waste any further time and go proceed with our presentation. So the topic today, what I'll be talking about is how do you choose a best fit university? Okay, and considering that, like what ma'am mentioned earlier, there are so many institutions in the United States. There are more than 4,700 institutions. These include universities, colleges, specialized colleges, and very specific to a particular domain. And how would you take this decision, right? So not to worry, as the bottom line suggests, there are quite a lot of universities, but there is a place for everybody. I know there are students here right now in this conference who have 15 years of education, and they have this question that, what about us? That are there universities for us? So yes, that is the question and that is the answer. So you don't have to worry. There are a lot of universities and institutions in the US, and there is a place for everyone. So this is generally, hold on. This is a general misconception that students have that, if I'm going to the United States, I have to go to a top university and it has to be a #1 university, not looking at what program they want to go for. So according to me and according to so many other faculty advisors we speak to, a graduate study especially is not about a university. Okay, it's all about the faculty and his research, especially when you talk about the sciences or the engineering for that matter. Okay, so this is very important that you should know. If you're looking, if I have to give you an example, if you want to get into a top engineering university or you want to do a computer science, just because Harvard is #1, it's not necessary that Harvard is good for computer sciences. So research more, it's very, very important. Remember, grad study is not about university, but it's about a faculty and its research, right? So what is very important when it comes to choosing a particular university? If it is not the rankings, what it is, according to me and according to most of the students and the faculty and everybody that we speak to, the first thing that any of the students should consider and should look into is the program. Okay, so what programs and what kind of programs should you consider? It's not just an area of study. What else you need to consider when it comes to your program preference? So if you're looking, if I have to give an example, if it is a computer science program, so which universities are really strong in that field? Again, the field is computer sciences. What about the areas? Now you have a bunch of other areas. So you could have probably artificial intelligence, there's machine learning, there's computer vision, software engineering. So you need to see what is your domain, what is something that you really want to do. If you're looking at an artificial intelligence, you need to see a university which is strong in computer sciences with an artificial intelligence background. This is a very, very most important aspect that you need to consider when you're looking at shortlisting a particular university, right? Then what you need to see, how strong the department is. What are the faculty? Are the faculty, do they have Nobel awards? Are they really good in this particular domain? How many PhDs do they have? What are the current research is currently going on at the university? How is the lab facility? So sometimes you get this information, you don't really get it offhand, but you can always talk to current students and know the strength of the particular field or the particular area. I know for sure that CSU, when it comes to some programs, we have as little as maybe 25 students or even 20 students in one particular area. And when it gets even more selective, you even have like 2 or 3 students with one faculty member. So find out what is the student's strength. Is this something that you actually want to consider? Okay, what are the levels of study? Do you want to really stop at a bachelor's or at a master's, or do you want to even take it further to maybe a PhD? So levels of study again is something which is very, very important. So the basic difference, if I can give you this, is you have something called as an ME. that is a Master's of Engineering, and then you have something called an MS, right? And ME is the terminal degree. If you want to pursue a PhD later in future, probably it'll be very difficult if you have an ME degree. But with an MS, it becomes very easy. So this is again something that you should always consider, right? What are the graduate courses? If you're a little, not sure, if you're a little, confused because you have so many courses on the website, and okay, this is my area. I want to do something in energy, right? So what would the curriculum be like? And there are like 40 courses or 50 courses, and you're not very sure, so you don't have to worry about that. You have your graduate advisors, you have your graduate coordinators who will actually assist you with that. But having a look at the courses and getting to know what is actually out there is something that you should always consider when you're planning, to apply for a university. What is the research linked with your area of study? Like I said, if you're looking at computer sciences, in computer science, if you're looking at artificial intelligence, I will go a little further in the next slide about this. So check the area of study and check the research linked with that. It's very, very important. You should be able to do something that you're really interested in and what you have your passion in. If that research is not really there with a particular university, you don't want to apply there. So this again is something that you should consider before you actually apply to a university. Is there funding available? Okay, funding is always there. You have funding mostly with research-based universities, but is it available to everybody? How is the availability? Is it very merit-based? Are they looking at students who have the prior experience of research, and probably that the research funding will be given to those students only? So getting this information is not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not there right on the website, but probably asking, you have the EducationUSA, you have your in-country reps. You can always reach out to your graduate coordinators and get these questions answered. If funding is something that you're really looking forward to, you need to actually get these questions answered first. Okay, what is the accreditation? Is it an ABET accredited? Or is it a AACSB? So these are something that you should also again consider. Program rankings, like I said, university rankings is something that you should, I think, just avoid. But program rankings is something that you can actually consider. So if it is probably public health or civil engineering, you can look up what are the top 100 universities that actually do well in civil engineering or computer sciences or whatever subject that you're looking at. Is it something that you really want to consider? Always again remember, hire the university, not necessarily that you can cope up with their curriculum. Okay, so consider all of these factors when it comes to program. It's not just the program that you need to look at. Okay, this university has my program, and that's it, I can apply here. These are the topics that you need to look into when you're looking at a program preference. Okay, let's move next. Funding, I want to talk about research, but I'll go to the next slide and then I'll talk about more about it there. But funding is the second most important thing according to me, because we are not just looking at students coming from the sciences or engineering, but we have students coming from business, humanities, and all the other domains. So how would you fund your education? Firstly, the first basic concept is you should know your costs. What are the costs involved, right? So generally students look at, okay, if I'm going to the United States, I know I have to have 20 lakhs to 30 lakhs at least to show for my first year. But that is once you enter the university. What about when you are applying? What about pre-applications? These are additional costs that you should consider, right? So this is something that students do not, budget for, and it definitely hampers them later on to actually apply to good universities. So if you're applying to a universities, what would you incur? You would have an application fee. You would have to send the official documents like your transcripts and all the other documents in hard copy at some point or the other to the university. Okay, so the courier cost involved there. You will be sending your test scores, that is your your GRE, your GMAT, your IELTS, or the TOEFL. So the more universities you apply to, I know that students sometimes even apply to 10, 15 universities, right? So if you have to give you like an average cost, an application fee could be anywhere from $50 to $70. Sending documents could take anywhere from 1,000 rupees, by FedEx or by DHL. Your test scores would be somewhere around $20 each. So the more universities you apply to, you will be incurring a very heavy cost, right? Once you have finalized your university, what are the costs? What are the direct and indirect costs? So your direct cost would be your tuition, right? So your tuition can range anywhere from $20 or $20,000 to even to up to $35,000. So again, budgeting there, like, how much is your budget is very, very important, because that is a major chunk where you will be actually spending. That would be your tuition. Then after that, you have your living expenses, you have your insurance, your books and supplies, you have your travel expenses, personal expenses. This could range anywhere from 30 to 35,000 to up to even $50,000 per year, right? But again, these indirect costs can be managed somehow. Okay, students sometimes might get assistantships, they get off-campus employment. You can manage some expenses, but I'm not saying that for the first year you should have your entire expenses kept aside, for your visas and everything, so that you don't have problems at least for the first year, right? Now, what are the other ways that you can sponsor your education, or you can fund your education? So the first and the most important is sponsor your family funds. So this is the most common funding that we have seen when it comes to students coming to the United States, that your parent is sponsoring you, or you have your family, probably a maternal parent or your grandparent. So it's mostly from the family tree that you see your sponsor funds happening. If it is something apart from from your family, that is maybe a family friend or an uncle, that would reflect on your official documents. So it is always preferred that you have a sponsor, but you can have other sponsors as well. What are the other methods or other funding opportunities that students look out for? So again, public and private universities is one consideration. We do see students who come from middle class families, or who have a very tight budget, who only look at public universities, right? And then you have some universities that are private universities that give you a very, very huge chunk of scholarships that brings your cost to a public university. But then again, these are some things that you will not really know when you're applying, right? So when you're applying, you will know about your public university costing, but how much scholarships you're going to get from a private university, or is there any additional funding, that you'll only know once you get an acceptance. So this is one thing, if you are really tight on budget, you should really consider. There are other public universities also that are equally expensive as a private university. So not researching about the tuition and just going by that this is a public university and it'll be cheap is completely wrong, right? The next I want to highlight is about assistantships. Now, if I can give you an example about Colorado State, we do give a lot of assistantships, and we don't give scholarships at a graduate level. At an undergraduate level, yes, we do have merit-based scholarships, but at a graduate level, we have research assistantships, teaching assistantships. Teaching is a little rare. It's mostly given to PhD students or students who take those kind of seminars with us and who have already been with us for some time. But research assistantships is something which is a little common. So if you have, if I have to give you an example, if a student has a very good GPA, anything above an 8.5, 8.8. If he has a GRE of anything about 315 or a 318, and he has one or two paper publications, there's a high possibility that he gets RA right from his semester one. Right, so that's how important your grades are, and your GRE is. And if you have any paper publications, it makes a very big difference when you're coming to a research-based university. Right now, what are departmental scholarships? Now, these differ from assistantships. So, a department, apart from the funding that they give in the form of RAs and TAs, they have another funding that they can offer to students, but obviously, you will not know about them when you're applying. You will only get to know about them once you're on campus. So if there is a funding available, and if you can tutor somebody, or you can do some lab work along with professors, this is something that can give you an extra buck. It will not help you with your tuition, but it will definitely help you with your other expenses, maybe living, or some other books, or maybe personal expenses. Right, and you always have your on and off campus employment, so you are entitled to work on campus for at least 20 hours per week from the time you join university. But it's for the first year, it has to be on campus, and after the first year, you can work off campus. So this again can help you with some of your living expenses and can take care of some some other personal expenses as well. Okay. This is a very, very important slide that I want to really highlight. So research, I know whenever we speak to students, this is something that you're actually looking forward to, especially when it comes to the sciences and the engineering students, that, I want to get into a research university. And this is something that we do not really have, that kind of exposure in India at an undergraduate level, even at a master's level. But getting that at a at a US university at a master's level is very important for some students. So how would you differentiate? So the best example is the Carnegie. If you can see that at the bottom of the page, it says Carnegie class. So if you research about this a little, the Carnegie Class 1 research universities spend a lot of money when it comes to R&D. So they spend anywhere from 300 to 400 million minimum on R&D every year. So if this is something that you want to consider as the topmost priority of your education in the US, you should look at Carnegie Class 1 institutions. Carnegie Class 2 or 3 probably will have a little lesser funding, but more the funding will obviously help you in getting assistantships later in future. Yeah, so this is again an example of Colorado State, research projects currently going on. You should find a lot more once you go on the website, but to give you an idea, okay. So in computer science, like I said, if you're looking at the AI area, what are the current research topics going on, right? So you can look at deep learning, there's robotics, there's neural networks, there's genetic and evolutionary algorithms. Okay, so this is something that if it interests you, okay, these are the current research topics going on. You need to go and see which are the professors involved in this particular research domain. Okay, read their work, read their paper publications, their citations, and you need to tell them why would you love to work with them? How do you think that this interests you? Okay, this is something that students don't really do. Okay, for us, it is a mandatory requirement if you want to get into research, and you need to do this from the time you start with your application. That means you're doing this simultaneously, right? So it's very important. If you miss out on this step, there is a possibility that you do not get the MS. You might get a coursework kind of an option, or there's a possibility you might even get rejected. So it is very important that you should know, if you're getting into this particular area of study, which professor you want to work with, why you want to work with him, read his work. It is very, very important. So the same thing with mechanical and ECE, based on your area of study. Now in ECE, we have more than 30 areas. I've just given you one example, right? So you need to go and deep dive and see which is, if you're looking at embedded, or you're looking at VLSI, or you're looking at robotics or mobile satellite communications, who's doing what research, and how would you get in touch with them is very, very important simultaneously with your online application. Yeah. So this is something which is very generic. There are many students who look at the competitiveness when it comes to university, or they're very selective when it comes to other aspects. So what are the other student preferences? Now this can occur probably before or whilst you are applying, or whilst you're making the decision, or it can probably come later on. So it completely depends on the students. So public-private is one of the preference. Secondly, how big is the university? Again, we see a lot of students asking us, how big is it? Is it like a large university with like 1 lakh population? This is something that I'm not looking at. So what type of a student are you? Would you prefer a large university? And then you have students telling you that, I would probably get lost. I would prefer mid-sized university, or a very small university, a university which is very, very concise. So check this. This is again very important, because students miss out on this. They look at the rankings of a particular university, and when they reach to the university, then they realize that, this is not a place for me, because this is just too huge or just too small, right? So this is one thing. The class demographic, like I mentioned when I spoke about the mechanical engineering at CSU, for that matter, we only take 25 students, right? So how small is your class? How concise it is? How selective is the university when it comes to a profile of an average applicant? Is it like really very selective? Do I meet those criteria? Do I meet that requirement? Find that out beforehand. If you have a minimum GPA, GRE, and it doesn't mean that all the universities would consider it. You should try to find out what is the profile of an average applicant at a particular university. So it will really help you in, getting that answers that, if this is something that, the university has actually considered earlier, right? What is the student faculty ratio? Is it, like a really huge, ratio, or is it something which is very concise that you're looking for? You're looking for something which is very, very, personalized. So find this out. Location, again, students prefer, oh, I would want to go only to New York, or I want to go only to, California. And once they go there, probably they don't really like it for whatever reasons. So again, considering location and then looking at the various aspects are very, very important. Safety. There is, rankings when it comes to the US, which city and which state is safe on, on the graph. So you can check that out, how safe is the place that you're going to, if that is a concern. I know that parents have this concern when you're sending their girls, like, this is not a very good place to send, but this is a good university. So this can be one of the considerations that, how safe is the place where actually sending your son or your daughter. Weather, again, I cannot, if I live in Bombay, so I cannot do the cold. I would prefer something in Texas, or maybe in Florida, or maybe California. So again, weather is one of the aspects, but I would, from my personal experience, I would suggest do not, shun that option completely. Okay, because sometimes, getting the feel of all the four seasons is also good. And sometimes that you have these misconceptions, because people don't live there, or they're living someplace else, and you have this comment that they'll, often give you that, it's really cold, it snows like all the time. But when you see the reality, that's not true. Right, so getting the facts right is very, very important, and cross-questioning and researching more about it again is very important, rather than missing out on something that you'll probably regret later. Right. So what are the other benefits for international students? Are there internship opportunities? What are the companies around the campus? Do they come on campus for job fairs or employment opportunities? So does the university have CPD options? I would prefer probably working for a year after I finish my 1 year of my education and then coming back. Do they have that kind of facility? What is the OPT availability? Okay, if I want to stay on campus, now this generally we see a lot of Indian parents, talking about, their daughters that, we want her to stay on campus, but we want an Indian student only, we want an Indian girl, and she should be a vegetarian. So, you have all these rules and you have all these preferences, and, these things can be taken care, when it comes to university. So find out whether this, there is a possibility of having a preference like this, or meals, if you're only looking at probably halal, or if you're only looking at maybe, vegetarian or kosher, does that university have this kind of an option? I know this is a little too early, but if you have these preferences, where we know that sometimes students really do, so this is something that you should consider earlier than rather considering this after you have made a decision. Right? Off-campus living expenses. Again, you have students who don't have that kind of a budget, right? And they would prefer a place like New York or Boston, but then living expenses in Boston is more than $1,000 per month. Whereas when you look at places like Texas or even Colorado, for that matter, you can manage in like $300 per month, right? So you need to know how expensive is that place, whether you would prefer spending that much, or would you take a huge cut on your budget. Job fairs. So what does the career services center at the university do? What are the jobs? So do they have employment fairs at the university? How many do they offer in a year? So this is something which is available on the website. But if you still want more information, you have the international office, and you have everybody to help you out with this and get this information for you, which can help you make this decision, right? So next, this is the fun slide. So apart from all the academics and everything which is very, very detailed and very technical, what else does the university have to offer? I'm a sports buff. So do they have all the sports what I would love to do, or probably I play very professional sports? What is the NCAA division when it comes to that particular university? So look at the division. Is it a Division 1? Is it a Division 2? If you really want to play, or if you don't want to play professionally, you just want to have a good time. What are the other recreation activities at the university? Do they have intramural sports? What you can do, or probably we do have an Indian Indian student association that has like this cricket club. So can you get that opportunity to do that at your university? So find this out. So student clubs, like what are the clubs available? Like, I am not the type who will go out. Probably I'm looking for something like a math club or a physics club, or you are more of an adventurous type. If your university is right at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, do they have a mountaineering club? Do they have a biking club? So find these things out. Apart from academics, that you will make your network, you will have another network of friends with these clubs that can really help you and help you grow as well. Apart from that, music, dance, and theater. I'm not saying that you need to have a degree in this, but apart from that, if you want to do something yourself, like I said, we do have an alumni with us on this call. So they do, Gaurav is right here, probably he can speak to you later if there's time. So how does, an association help you and probably, help you do these music, dance, theater, or maybe you can have a Bollywood night, and how does the university really help you with these things? So this is again a part of campus life, and you should look into it. I know you're going there to study, but this is university, and probably you might not get this opportunity later, and maybe you should take advantage of this. Housing. So there is a complete page with each university about housing policies. But what type of housing you're looking at? I know sometimes students are very, very conservative and probably look at, I want to live by myself. Does the university have this kind of accommodation which has like a private room with a private bathroom? Or, does it have a dorm facility? Or does it have, like a house which I can rent with my other friends? Or what are the off-campus policies? So this is something which is right there on the website, which you can look into, and it is right there for all the students. Career and support services, like I said, we have a career services center. What do? They help you with resume. They help you with all these other informations with CPT, OPT. They organize job fairs for you. Then you have support services like international student support services. They will help you maybe with immigration, and getting your SSN number, and helping you with other all questions that you will have in your 2 years or 4 years of your education. So these are all there for students, and which you need to take maximum advantage for. So immigration can help you if your visa is getting expired or your passport is getting expired. Again, they can help you there. You have something called a speed tutoring. Then there are some students who have, when they have problems when it comes to dyslexia or some other disability. So what does the university do, or do they have any special things for students like this? So this is there on the website. It's not something that you should consider afterwards, but if you have this and this is like a prime concern, you should read about it when you're looking at your universities, right? And some other key factors would be, I would suggest, this is from my personal experience, I think that you should speak to students who are current students, past students. You should look at maybe alumni testimonials, maybe on the websites, or maybe on other social media platforms. You should network with current students. If you have like a group of students, or if you know students who are already there, or students who are actually applying with you, even when students get their admits, we try to bring them together, maybe on a WhatsApp group. Talk with current students. It's very important. Follow social media pages, like on LinkedIn. If you just put Colorado State University, you'll find a list of students who are past students who have probably graduated maybe 10 years back, 2 years back, who are current students. Try to get in touch with them. It's very important. And then you always have EducationUSA as well, right? So they are the most unbiased platform. If if I have to compare with, I don't want to even compare them to any agents, who will help you with all the resources, will help you and guide you and advise you, like how Aparna mentioned earlier. And when you talk about resources, in fact, the next slide is from the EducationUSA website. And if you look at this, they help you right from your step 1 to like your step 5 till you make your plans to actually go to the US, right? So helping you. So right now, whatever we spoke about is completely about the point number 1. I've spoken a little bit about financing your education, but I think Shishir will be speaking about it maybe tomorrow, more in detail. But apart from that, this is how the process is, like how Aparna mentioned. It could take anywhere from 12 months to 18 months. So please prepare well in advance. Once you know which universities you're looking at, okay, what you want to apply to, you know how you need to finance it, how many universities you want to apply to, if you want to apply to 10 universities, 15 universities, or you're very sure and you want to stick to just 5, okay, then you need to see what are the application requirements for that particular university. Try to complete them. Do not keep anything incomplete. And then once you have your offers and I-20s and all in place, then you apply for your visas, and then you go on towards your pre-departure, right? I think I will take your questions, but these are my credentials. You all can always, if you have any questions very, very specific to Colorado State, you can reach me on my email address, and that's my number. And right now, probably we can just take questions.
Thank you so much for that detailed presentation, Melissa. It was very insightful, and I'm sure the students who joined us today would have gained a lot of information about how to shortlist universities in particular and how to plan their budgets and finances. I'm going to take 3 questions first, which have come in the Q&A box, which have been typed by students, and then I have a couple of more. We have about 20 minutes now left to wrap up the presentation. So the first question that's come in is from a student called Roshan, who wants to know what is the difference between an ME and an MS degree. I'll probably add an addendum to this and say if you can also throw some light on the M engineering. So ME, MS, and M engineering, if you could throw some light.
So the ME is the Master of Engineering itself, and an MS is the Master of Science. So an ME is like a terminal degree, at least when it comes to Colorado State. It is, for US for that matter, and it is only based on coursework. So it would not have a thesis, it would not have research to it, and it would primarily be very, very focused towards coursework only. So if we do see a lot of students who start with an MS and want to get into research, but then probably they cannot manage it, and it is really very difficult, and then they move towards an ME option because an MS does not necessarily have a coursework option sometimes, right? So in that case, you can always switch. There's no harm, okay? At any universities, you can always do an ME to an MS or an MS to an ME. But having known the difference and you know what you want to do, it's always better beforehand. Whereas an MS, on the other hand, is a thesis based or a research program, and post which, if you want to, you can always even take it to a PhD, like an integrated program, or maybe you take a break and you can always do that. But after an ME, it's very difficult to actually do a PhD.
Just to add some insights, the M engineering is the kind of program which allows you to dovetail between engineering kind of knowledge as well as business studies kind of knowledge. So you will be able to take courses from both streams. So that's what the M engineering program is. All right, so the next question is, given the COVID-19 situation and its effects, the students who want to pursue their masters in the US, because given that more than 33 million people have lost jobs in the US, how will it impact international students who are applying to US universities and who may be looking for internships and job opportunities later?
See, I think right now the situation is very, very unclear. I know that students many people have lost their jobs, but I know students for sure are definitely studying and trying to complete their education. But yes, I can definitely tell you that internships and everything have taken a hit. It's not that they haven't, but given the current situation, it's very, very unclear, and it's very it's very uncertain right now what would happen probably 2 years down the line. But if you happen to start your education right now, but we had a very similar kind of a situation probably in 2008 2009 when US hit the depression, and where we saw students coming back probably. But then the ones who actually went at that point in time and they completed their education maybe 2 years down the line, I don't think they really had a problem back then. But I can't really say the situation is the same, because it's definitely not. But right now, I would still say that talking about this and knowing what the future would be like is something that I would definitely not have an answer for.
Great. Yeah, the situation is fluid, I suppose, and it's probably difficult to give that. All right. So the next question is from Rohit Kumar, and he'd like to know: is GPA really the deciding factor for doing the master's program?
If you're looking at any tier 1 universities, it is like the #1 factor. It is definitely is. In fact, we do see, students asking us about, I have 5 years of experience, 10 years of experience. I have so many certifications, and I have so many recommendations, and would it really, substitute? But that's a big no. At least for CSU. I think tier 2 universities maybe would still consider. But for tier 1 universities, GPA followed by GRE is very, very important. Yes, these two can substitute each other, a little by itself, but still not entirely. So if I have to give you an example, like what we see in a student, the student needs to have a 3 GPA. So if I have to convert it, if the student has anything below a 7.5, is a big no for us. So because that's how they have seen over a couple of years that these students probably might not be successful at a master's at the university, or maybe even if they are successful, they would get a very low GPA, and thereby bringing a university rankings down. So they would not want to consider such students. So that is why GPA is important. But yes, if you get a very, very high GRE, maybe it can substitute it a little. And probably if you can speak to the professors and let them know, what was the reason, and if you can have probably a paper publication or two, maybe to make your profile a little stronger, to comparatively, maybe you can still get considered. Yes.
The next question is: are GRE subject tests weighted for admissions? Are there criteria that students have to take at least 1, 2, or 3 subject tests for, say, computer science? And is a math-based subject test mandatory?
So we don't need the GRE subject test. We just need the GRE general. The subject test is not really required. And in fact, from last year, we only needed that for our physics program. But even I think right now we have taken that off. So subject test again is very, very particular or very specific to some universities. So you need to find this out, which universities actually need it. If not, if you don't have this information before, and if you end up giving these tests, you'll be spending unnecessary. So mostly I think at least a lot of the universities do not really need them, but it completely depends on from university to university. So you need to find this out. At least for CSU, we don't need them.
We have a very relevant question next from Harsh, who's saying, given the pandemic situation, most of fall 2020 admits have been given the deferral option to fall 2021 by most of the universities. Does this mean that intake will be less in fall 2021?
I don't really think so. I don't see. See what we are doing currently is that we are giving an option for online. Okay, so or the deferral option. So you have both. So it's completely on the student what he wants to do. And if there is a possibility of students actually beginning from January, you can actually, if you can defer and you can go for your in-person classes in January, then it's very good, right? But if you don't want to consider the January intake and you want to apply directly for the fall 2021, it would be the same. But then again, it depends completely on the department, and it depends on what is their capacity or the cohort, right? So like I gave you an example, if the cohort of a particular class is only like 25 or 35, and they have enough students that they have actually admitted in fall 2021, and if they have all of them have deferred, then there would be a possibility that that particular domain or that particular department or cohort might not see a lot of acceptances for fall 2021, right? But if there is another department like civil engineering, or maybe other departments like the ECE, if they do not have a cap, okay, on the number of students, and they have like more than 30 areas of study, so it should not be a problem. So again, it varies from department to department and from your area of study and to the university. So this is something probably you might have to ask your graduate coordinators or the advisors. You might not get a very definite answer, but it varies from university, is what I can say. If you have to have a question for CSU, I will definitely I can give you that answer, but I cannot really talk about other universities because I don't know their cohort or their class size as such.
The next question is an interesting one. It says, some insights into the field of commerce and finance. What are the main courses in these fields? When you're answering this question, Melissa, I'd also like you to club this with another question about what happens to students who have a 3-year bachelor's degree from India, given that typically in the US, bachelor's degree programs are 4 years.
Right.
So how does that impact students, let's say a student of commerce in India who has a 3-year bachelor's degree? So if you can combine these two. So
Sure.
what are the main courses in the field of commerce and finance that are available? And are there any special requirements that students with 3-year bachelor's degrees have to fulfill to apply for a master's in the US?
Okay. So we do have our entire College of Business. In fact, we have courses at a master's level. We do have an M Accountancy. We have an M Finance, which is a 1-year program, and it is a STEM program. That means you would be eligible for your 3 years OPT after you do the M Finance. There is no commerce program as such. It is a business administration. So we do have programs with an MBA or an executive MBA. When it comes to business, you can take electives which should be very specific to marketing, to finance, to computer information systems. So CIS is one of our most competitive measures in our College of Business. It's called Computer Information Systems. And it is a blended program of IT and business, but it is the business side of IT. So this is again a very typical question that, I do not have an IT background and I want to do this program because it's not only STEM, it has a very high employment rate post completion. So we see a lot of popularity from students coming from all the fields, and the program is designed as such that we have students, 50% of the students are technical and 50% are non-technical. So students from history, literature, economics have also been admitted into the program. So these are some of our programs which you can get a complete list once you go to our College of Business, and you can find them very easily. But with other universities, you can even have probably business analytics, you can have supply chain management, and there are so many other streams that you need to look into. Again, I come to my point number one. Program preference is number one. So what you actually prefer, right? What is your preference is very, very important. And based on that, you need to shortlist the universities. So if you're looking at supply chain, again, you will have very limited universities that actually have this program at a master's level, right? So you need to see that, and then you need to shortlist accordingly. Right now, coming to Aparna's question about 15 years, like even we, only our College of Business accepts 15 years of education. So if you're looking at any programs from whatever I've just told you, MPhil, M Accountancy, CIS, or MBA, you can apply. But then what happens is we look at the other aspects very, very minutely. So your GPA, your GMAT should be really strong. If you have a strong work experience, maybe that can actually substitute a 15 years of education. But when it comes to other universities, so it is not. So it is again a myth that all the universities need 16 years. That's not true. There are a lot of universities that do accept 15 years as well. So even we accept 15 years when it comes to our College of Business, provided your other aspects of your application are really very strong. And it is just about doing that research, right? So like I said, it's not that it's very easily available on the website. Maybe you will have to deep dive a little bit into the university. You'll have to go through some more links, and maybe you might have to drop in an email and find out whether they would accept it or not. But there are a lot of tools available on the website. There are universities that accept them. There is another option that also students prefer doing because they want to have all the universities open for them. Then they prefer doing 1 year of their masters maybe in India. And when they are simultaneously doing their 1 year masters, then they apply to the United States. And then you can always give that option to us that, I'm currently pursuing my 16th year, and I have my 15 years already completed. So you have a lot of options. So like I mentioned earlier, there's a university for everybody. So if you don't want to do it, you just want to stick to your 15 years, you will definitely have those, but you just have to research a little bit more in detail. Or else if you want to get into a good university only and you have 15 years, you don't have to worry. You can easily do a 1 year master's or a 1 year PGD, which is affiliated to our NAC accredited university, and you should be fine.
Yeah, I think one more point I'd like to add over here is that some universities will accept a 15-year bachelor's degree student provided they get the credential evaluation done. So the university in the US might give you the name of a credential evaluation agency that they work with, like World Education Service or Education Credential Evaluators, or ECE, for example. So the university will give you the names of such organizations, and they'll tell you to send your mark sheets to them for credential evaluation. And based on the report of the credential evaluation agency, then the university will let you know if they can consider you for admission with your 15 years of education in India. So that's the other thing that you need to be familiar with. All right, so questions are popping up quite thick and fast. So the next one is, I'm going to take more generic questions. So if it's a very specific to one particular student's profile, I'm not going to pick that up right now. I'm just taking the generic ones, all right? So Dana asks, for admissions, how much of funding needs to be shown by the sponsor? Is it tuition only? Will that work? And for the living expenses, can be shown through a student loan later? Do student loans need to be funded only from India, or can it be taken from US through a financing organization there against the student status?
Okay, that's a very detailed question. So you have, when you're applying to United States, when you're applying to a university, and once you get an admit, you would be getting an I-20 based on the funding that you actually show, and the funding that you need to show is your 1 year tuition plus living. So it's called the cost of attendance. It's the tuition. It comprises of the tuition, the living expenses, your books and supplies, and your insurance. Not necessary. Now you tell me that my living expenses, what is shown on my I-20 is beyond something that student generally spends. But this is what the requirement is. You need not spend the entire thing. Probably you might end up spending maybe 3/4 of it, or maybe even half of it. But what is need to be shown to get your I-20 and get your visas is what is mentioned. So it could range anywhere, like I mentioned, if it is a state university, anywhere from like 30,000 to 35,000 to even up to $50,000 is 1 year tuition plus living expenses. That means your entire cost of attendance has to be shown, and it could be in your sponsor's account. It need not be in one account. If he has multiple accounts, it can be shown in multiple accounts. Or if you want to show your mother, your father, your brother, your grandparents, all of them also can be clubbed and can be shown together, as long as you give us all the bank letters that can be considered as fine. And you can also include a loan letter with it, is also fine. So it's not that the loan only has to come for the living expenses or for the tuition. At the time of getting an I-20, we just club it all together, and then we will mention, okay, your family funds was this much, your student loan was this much, other funds are so this much, and that's it. And they need not know that the loan amount has to come for your living expenses or whatever that is. We need to see the total amount, and that's it.
Okay. So let's take the final question. It's 4:58 already. Does the study of finance in India differ from the study of financial study in the US?
See, again, this is a very specific question, because generally what happens is there are some universities that have an MBA in finance and probably would have very generic courses in the first year, and then would stick to the finance modules only in the second year. And like when it comes to CSU, we only do the second year bit because it's only a 1 year program for us. So you're doing the financial modules only in the first year. So what you're doing in India probably is a little different, because there you're doing the global finance and you're looking at all other aspects as well. So checking the curriculum online is very important, which you should find it very easily. And again, if you're looking for something very, very specific, again, like I said, it differs from university to university. So getting that information again is very important, because not all universities will have it there. So so an MBA, probably if you want to get into the generic stuff, because it would include maybe accounting, it would have HR, it would have other aspects of other business concepts, and then followed by, if this is something that you want to do, then that would be a priority. If not, if you're looking for something which is very, very specific, then you have those universities as well.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's you provided quite detailed answers to all the queries that we've received. It's almost 4:59, so we're at the end of our presentation today. So I'd like to now hand it over to Naveen of Kumaraguru College.
Good evening to all the panelists and participants. I'm Naveen, Executive, International Partnerships, Kumaraguru Institutions. On behalf of Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Science and Kumaraguru College of Technology, I would like to thank our speaker, Melissa Tixeira, Recruitment Advisor, International Programs, Colorado State University, and also Moderator, Ms. Aparna Chandrashekaran, Advisor, Education USA. This is an insightful session. I think it has touched upon all the aspects of studying in the US. I thank all the participants for joining us today. I would request all the participants to fill the feedback form, which will be shared to your email. A gentle reminder on tomorrow's session. Tomorrow's session is on application timeline and funding by Mr. Shishir Kumar Upadhyaya, Advisor, International Programs, Lehigh University. The session will be moderated by Ms. Shanti Mohan, Advisor, Education USA at USIEF. For more information on the series and registration, please visit our website, theconversation.kclass.ac.in. I thank USIEF and our student service partner, IDP Education. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. Thank you.